0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to a special bonus Phillies edition of the Phixated Podcast. I am your enamored host, Mike Azzolina, because it is baseball season, and I am joined by my baseball fanatic Phillies, really fanatic friend, Regzy. Boo, it is here. We are talking Phillies baseball for real.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
It's not the doldrums of free agency. It's none of that. It is baseball season.
Can't wait. Like I've said many times, my favorite thing is to come home from a practice or be done work and know that it's 7 o'clock. I'm turning on the TV and putting on some baseball. Can't wait.
You know, it's even better now that the games start earlier.
They do. It's like 6:40, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is great.
It's amazing. Like, it's because usually like we wrap up dinner at like 6:30 and I'm like, oh, still half an hour to the Phillies.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, 6:30. Oh, they're on in 10 minutes.
It's a great point.
It's beautiful.
It is.
They're on the West Coast and I have to wait 3 hours.
Well, yeah, that's just,
not fun.
Watching that in bed.
It's, baseball, we talk about it all the time. Like, baseball off season is it's a desert, man. Like, it is a really dry time. I heard today that Manfred wants to almost create like a window, like a free agent signing period, sort of like football has.
Yeah.
For it to be the end of December, which is like, how I feel. I would love that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, here we are, pitchers and catchers reported yesterday.
Some people still aren't signed, right?
There's like 10 like players that are good baseball players still unsigned.
Yeah.
It would put pressure on both team and player to get something done.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, baseball season's the most annoying of all the off seasons, right? So
yeah, it's kind of that final place that baseball needs to evolve. Like we've seen them do it with the games and the DH, things like that, the new rules, speeding everything up. This is definitely one of those last places that, from a fan perspective, like I know they need to help minor league players and make them not like,
for sure,
live in squalor as they have to drive themselves from game to game. So there's a whole separate part of that. But like from a fan perspective, the free agent part like really just kind of drags.
It's the ultimate like symbolism of greed on both sides. Like players won't sign because they're not getting the money because of getting on the other side of the greed train. You've got ownership who's putting like the baseball's version of a tag, right? Like, oh, we're offering you, and I'm drawing a blank on what they call the offer, the 1-year contract that they give. I can't remember what it's called. This is so bad because like baseball's like my thing.
Arbitration thing?
No, not the arbitration.
What is it? Yeah. Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
That's so bad. It's
I can't
so
think
bad
of it
that
either. That's bad.
Good God. But like that's what causes teams to avoid signing some of these guys because you lose a draft pick, you lose international bonus money, and then like the luxury tax is the same thing. Like some teams don't care. Like the Dodgers blow right through it.
It's a qualifying offer, by the way.
Thank you, God Almighty. That was going to drive me nuts. Yeah. So like you got guys like Jordan Montgomery and Cody Bellinger and Blake Snell who all have these qualifying offers tagged to them. And teams are not willing to give them big contracts because they're not quite sure age-wise. Mm-hmm. And, they don't want to give up these picks for these long-term deals. So there's a greed train, right? And both sides are guilty of it. But you're right. It's the last place they have to evolve. That being said, it's still an amazing game. It's still exciting that we are literally weeks away from regular season baseball being on our televisions for the next 6 months. And we Regs, we have for the fourth, fifth consecutive year a team to be really excited about. A team that has been to the playoffs 2 consecutive years, was 2 wins away from a World Series in 2022, and a win away from going back in consecutive years last year. And yes, the end of the year was disappointing. It was frustrating. It was obnoxious. Um, that being said, with each spring, hope is eternal. And I believe that we have a team to be very hopeful about. We've talked a lot about the reasons why, and we're not going to believe. You can go back and listen to all of our, little reasons why the Phillies should be better this year than they were last year. But there was a really good conversation on WIP this morning. I was driving back to Easton to see my family and do a couple things there, and listening to WIP, and they had the conversation of like, look, baseball's back. Should we have World Series expectations of this team? And some of the hosts who talked about it throughout the day were like, yep, we should. But a majority of them were like, no, not really. Like, they're not as good as what we think. They're a team who can get hot. So I'm kind of posing that question for us to start this conversation, because we're gonna do a couple of things tonight. We're gonna talk about the expectation of the team heading into the season here to start. We're gonna finish off our offensive fair expectations with Schwarber, Turner, and Harper. We are going to talk about the Wheeler extension that is very public there right now. And then we're going to talk about some players and storylines as we head into spring training. We are not doing bold predictions tonight. We will do that in an episode in the next few weeks. We have a things planned we'll talk about. But we are starting with expectations of this. And I think I speak for both of us when I say we both have high expectations of games, minimum. We think that they can compete for the division, playing the full season the way that we believe they can. And we do think they can compete for a World Series. We've said it on this show that they're the third best team in the National League, and I don't think there's much of conversation to be had about that. It's them, the Braves, and the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can throw the Diamondbacks in that conversation. I think now they got better this offseason, but I think when you look at this season in totality and the rosters, the way they're built, I still take the Phillies roster. So, all that being said, Regs, I'll throw out a reason why I think World Series expectations can be real, and one that I think can hold them back. And we can go back and couple, and then, kind of land wherever we will.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with a tied reason, almost two, that I believe they won't go, and why it's fair to say it's going to be hard. And that's the Dodgers. Right. The Dodgers kind of threw spending out the window this year, and are, they're as close to a super team as baseball. They're loaded.
Yeah.
I went through their depth chart today and was just like in awe of the names on that roster. So much name power that Mookie Betts is playing second.
Yeah,
position.
right.
And on top of that, you mentioned this before the show. I want to this. How many times are you going to beat the Braves in the postseason?
Yeah.
Look, I think there's going to be some sort of decline in Atlanta this year. You can't all have career years every year. I don't think their pitching is going to be as good as what people think it's going to be. But they're, if they get back there, how many times can you beat them? Like, at some point, the law of averages says they're going to beat you.
Right.
Well, on the other side of that, and then I'm going to ask you to kind of go on both sides as well. I do believe that there's something to be said for a team that is hungry, and a team who's been to the tip of the mountain, but hasn't quite felt the wind at the top, right? That cool breeze and that feeling of like, I made it to the top. Like, they got to that last climb and the bungee pulled them back. And they're saying all the right, the way Rob Thompson talks, this is a team who's incredibly motivated to get back. The players are all saying how motivated to get back there. And one thing I believe about this team is that they thrive off of this. Like, this is something they thrive off of. I think it's going to be a very different regular season. I think for the first time in years to finish. Um, and I believe that because I believe that they know what the mission is. And it's to get there and get there with confidence so teams don't feel great about playing you. I don't see a lot of flaws, Regs. So that's kind of where I'm at. What about you in terms of something that's keeping you from having those worlds? Yeah, I fully believe they can get back.
Yeah, I think, as always, injuries are a thing. We don't wish them to happen, but look, the Phillies are a youngish team. Like, I think their oldest guy at camp, they said, was like, it's close to Wheeler or it's Buchanan, maybe. He's like 35. So, age-wise, they're all, like, they have a bunch of guys who should be right kind of in their primes to, you know, late primes. Certainly not any sort of aging out of their primes just yet. And they have a couple guys that we're hoping are just coming into their primes. But again, injuries are always a thing that could happen. Like if Wheeler is out for a significant amount of time, if Ranger misses time again, if, you know, Nola has been durable, but like if two guys in the lineup start missing time for little things here and there, it can just lead to stretches where you're not going to win the division. You're just too far back, and Atlanta's just too good. And they're just going to keep winning. So we never hope for that to happen, of course. I really think that Braves thing is a big one. I hope it doesn't come to fruition, but I just I don't know how many times you could beat a good team like this. Listen, I hope it continues forever because I would love the Braves to never beat us in a playoff series ever again. But again, I don't know how realistic that is. And then I think my hopefulness is from the fact that 22 or 21 was like such a, like, look at this run that we were able to pull off out of nowhere. Guys, or 22 was just like this run out of nowhere that, like, look what we did, you know, like, look what we did. We made it there. We got up against some like true champions in the Astros and we got close. And I really think last year they kind of came in with like, well, we can just do that again. You know, Bryce will be back. We got Trey Turner. We can just do that again. Like, it'll be fine. And look, they kind of did for the most part, despite no Bryce and despite Trey Turner playing pretty terribly for half a season. And then they took their foot off the gas. Like I said, I need someone to like give me an oral history of what that plane ride was like from Philadelphia to Arizona in that series. Cause I swear to God, like someone had a voodoo doll or something. Something weird happened on that plane, and you'll never convince me otherwise. So until we hear that, we don't know what truly happened to them, but they lost it, man. They just lost it. They got on their high horse and they got literally the legs pulled out from under them. And it should have never happened. And my only hope is that it didn't just motivate them, it ticked them off. Like, and it's from top to bottom. You can't just point at two guys. It was every guy on that roster, maybe outside of Brandon Marsh.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
You know, honestly, like Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, sure. A few of the pitchers.
Yeah.
I was just speaking offensively. Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
But like, it's just offensively, every single guy, literally except Brandon Marsh, had to look at themselves and be like, what did we do?
Mm-hmm.
Where were we? Like, what happened to us? What happened to us? Those first two games, every fan in this city was like, done. We're back. We're going back and we're finishing it this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just hoping for a bunch of ticked off dudes who hear the stuff about the Dodgers and the Braves and the Diamondbacks and, you know, pick up like the Orioles and things like that. And I think the Phillies are going to kind of be a little bit counted out of true World Series like contenders. I really do.
They
They're
have like the 7th, 9th best odds or something
yeah,
like that.
they're gonna be like they're gonna like when all the smart people make their predictions. I bet they're outside the top 5 of like true people who think they can truly win the World Series. And I bet they're in that sort of second tier of teams. Like the first tier is going to be Dodgers, Braves, Orioles. Pick one more, probably Rangers, just because you have to, right?
Yeah.
But like they're going to be in that second list. And I'm hoping all that just leads to, listen, it's a baseball season. Weird stuff's going to happen. But like when it truly comes down to it, I just want a bunch of locked in guys whose only goal is to get to the World Series and win it this time.
I think, it's funny because you said baseball's a weird sport and weird things happen. I can't think of a team who had more weird things happen to them than the Phillies had last year. Like, consider this. A week before the season starts, their starting first baseman tears his ACL.
Yeah.
They go into the year without their best player and arguably a top 5 player not arguably, a top 5 player in the game. Trey Turner, who's been a top 10 player in baseball, totally forgot how to play the sport.
After the World Baseball Classic.
For 4 months.
Yeah.
Right? They started the year with 3 starters in terms of rotation. They were missing bullpen pieces here and there for an entire year. Right? Like all the weirdness that can happen to a baseball team, right, happened. So and that's not to say they won't have some more odd things happen this year. Like I'm not saying that. But like, despite all of it, they won 90 games and were within 1 of a World Series. If they get any sense of normalcy this year, like, I think they're right there. I do. I look at their roster compared to every other roster. And I'm like, yeah, they're just as good. They're just as good. So, and we've talked about where I think they fall in terms of rotation, lineup, bullpen. I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but like even in terms of the Dodgers, like I think they match up. Like I truly believe they match up. So we'll see, but I think it's fair to have expectations and be cautiously optimistic about like, look, they're absolutely a playoff team. Yeah. And the playoffs, once you get there, are a crapshoot.
Yeah.
We've seen that. But this team finds another gear when it's October 1st.
Yeah, I think there's a difference in saying like, I don't think they're, if I had to truly pick who's going to win the World Series and outside of a Phillies fan, like you would pick 3 or 4 other teams probably. But that doesn't mean I don't think the Phillies have a chance to win the World Series. Like that's two very different things. And like my expectations can be for them to get to the playoffs again and have a very real shot of being the NL champions again. But like, again, that doesn't mean that I would necessarily pick them as my first choice to win the World Series. Like there's some very good baseball teams out there.
But I think, like you said, it's fair to say, look, that I believe that they're going to get to the playoffs. And once you get there.
But I can also believe that, yes, this team has a chance and should be considered among the teams that can win a World Series this year.
100%. Because when you look at what wins in the postseason, it's the ability to pitch, right? You got to have guys who are going to pitch, and you've got to have, the ability to. I mean, it's dumb that I'm going to say this, but like you got to hit, right?
Yeah.
Both have to happen. You have to have the balance of both. Look at Texas. They got good enough pitching, and they hit the crap out of them for an entire month.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the Phillies, they pitched really well. The rotation was phenomenal. The bullpen was good, and they hit until the last 4 games of the Arizona series. But they have the ability to hit. So I think, when you get there, you have as good of a chance as any when you have Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and what I believe will be their starter that's not on the roster. To be determined. So we'll see what happens. But I think we both would say, are they my pick right now? No. But as a fan, do I believe they can? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And do I think they believe they can? Yes. I don't think there's any false belief in that clubhouse. I don't think it's like they know they can.
Yeah.
They know they can.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. So let's while we're on the topic of expectations, let's wrap up our starting lineup, shall we?
Let's do it.
We've been going backward, but what we're gonna do is do 1, 2, 3, because obviously Bryce is the one, right? So we're gonna start with Schwarber. And I said our bold predictions are not coming until later, but I think we're probably hitting our prediction right here. Last year, Kyle Schwarber hit 197 with a 343 on base percentage and a 474 slug, which gave him like an 817 OPS, which is solid as they come. Still on base a ton. Between his walks and his hits, he was on base 200 times. So for those of us who are so focused on batting average, suck an egg. He hit 47 home runs. We could not believe this number. 108 runs.
Yeah.
Or that number blew our minds. And 104 RBI. Which is hilarious to me, but still. So, bold prediction number 1. Kyle Schwarber's going to DH pretty much all season, which is going to keep him so much healthier.
Yeah.
And he's going to feel so much better every day, not having to run around in the outfield. Regz, 230.
I like it.
230, 350 OBP, 510 slugging, which will put him at 860 OPS. He's going to hit over 40. I got like I think 100 runs again if he's hitting leadoff all year is probably going to be right. And if you're hitting 45 home runs, you're pretty much walking into 100 plus RBI. So I think that's a fair number. 105 to 110 is probably about right. But I do believe Kyle Schwarber not having to play the field at all, because I don't think their intent is for him to play out there.
Oh,
period.
yeah. No.
You have Christian Pache, Brandon Marsh, Johan Rojas, Jake Cave, and all of those dudes are going to play the outfield. And they might sign a guy before then. They're all playing the outfield before Kyle Schwarber.
He's not seeing the outfield grass.
No. I mean, look, 1 or 2 games.
Possibly
to get Bryce off his feet to DH, to get JT off his feet to DH. There are plenty of things that they can do to make that all work and shuffle it around.
Yeah.
But when push comes to shove, Kyle Schwarber is DHing 145 times.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or anything that you add to? I don't have stolen bases for him. Let's just say 8 for fun.
He had 0 last year. Amazing.
Did he?
He had 10 the year before.
Well, let's average it out. 5.
I like that. No, I was gonna keep the runs around 100. I'm hoping the homers, like you said, 44. My average is gonna be like, just give me 220. 220, be perfectly happy. As long as he keeps the walks up. Like if we can keep the walks up and hit 220, we're doing some things.
The walks with him are never going to go anywhere. They're just not. That's who he is. And it's a big reason why I like him where he's at. And I think it just is such a difference maker to have a guy who can put that type of at bat together. That pitchers have to be like they're, that first time through, like, look, I got to throw him strikes because I really don't want to walk him to start the game.
Right.
But also think, if I throw him too good of a strike, he's going to hit it in the 3rd deck. Like, that's a terrifying thing. It's absolutely terrifying. Yeah. I get the absence of speed and all that, but all that matters is you get guys on the base path, and he gets on base a lot. So those walks aren't going anywhere. 350, 360 OBP this year. That that brings us to Trey Turner, the guy I think who has the biggest jump offensively on this roster. And we were laughing at his numbers before we came on tonight because it was like, gosh, the freaking anomaly was last year. And to consider that he was hitting like 230 when August rolled around and ended up hitting almost 270 is insane. It's insane. So 266, 320, 459 was his slash last year. 779 OPS. He had 26 home runs, had 102 runs scored, 76 RBI. Look, for most players, you're like, oh, that's a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
For Trey Turner, you're like, God, that sucked.
Yeah, his average OPS is 832.
Yeah, and I think we'll get closer to that this year. So I got him 285. I got him at 340, and I got him at 480. So about 820 OPS. 25 home runs is about right. Like, I don't think that's gonna be like much different. That 105 runs is also about right. I do think it could tick up with a full season of Bryce hitting behind him. So maybe 110 for runs. And then the RBI probably about the same. Like, again, he's not a big RBI guy because, with Schwarber, unless he's popping homers. 85 RBI. Again, it's a jump.
Yeah.
And then stolen bases, Regz, like, what was he, 30 for 30 last year?
Yeah, but it seemed like he didn't start running until later. It almost felt like
it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just all across the board wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think another jump forward, 5 stolen bases.
Yeah.
Very doable for him, just because of how fast he is.
Right.
And the new rules.
Yeah.
Once you throw over to him twice, he knows that now it's his game. So I don't know. And another thing for him, not playing in the World Baseball Classic and having a full off season, a full normal spring training and a full season at Citizens Bank and these fans and knowing that we're going to have his back. Like, I don't know, man. I just think Sheisty's to have. We're about to see the true Trey.
Yeah. I'm with you on almost all the stuff. I want to see 290. I want to see 295. Like, I just want him peppering stuff everywhere. I even would be fine with the home runs going back to like closer to 20. If I can see 295, 300 Trey. Like, he's like that 20, 26, 27 home runs, like, just isn't needed on this team. And I'm not saying his swing became this, but like, when you watch Trey Turner at his best, like, just no part of the field is safe. Like, he's just hitting it everywhere. And again, he's going to turn and pop, he's going to turn and pop on some. But you look at 22 in LA, like, it's only 21, home runs. But he had 100 RBIs, about the same amount of runs scored, 20, almost 25 more hits. All that kind of stuff. So I think I'd love for maybe the home runs to tick down a little. And I'd love to get to like 85, 9, like, or I'd love to get to like 55 walks. Maybe if he can maybe reduce the strikeouts and just give me a couple more walks. He just got like, he was he was antsy, he was uncomfortable. He was swinging at a bunch of stuff that I don't think he normally swings at. He admitted that himself, like he just wasn't being himself. So
I'm looking to see what his career high in walks is.
I got it up. It's 69 in 2018.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think 55 is a tall ask.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to get to like 80 or like Schwarber numbers. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not him. Yeah. But like, I definitely think 50, 55 is possible.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big ask, honestly. I think that's a very fair.
And I'm with you with the stolen bases. I'd love to see 40, 45.
Yeah, looking at his career numbers, like, I'd even take 50.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's never, outside of that year where he had 70 walks,
yeah,
45.
But just give me 295, 300 Trey Turner.
That'd be awesome.
Give me that guy. 20 home runs, 85, 90 RBIs. Like it's not impossible.
No. He can get there. I mean, again, RBI hasn't been his thing because he's always let off.
Right. But I mean,
But
he came up, we watched him in enough spots those first 4 months of the season, and he just couldn't do it. Never came through.
he was struggling. There's no doubt. He was on the struggle bus.
I can't
All
wait
right.
to watch the real Trey Turner.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I also can't wait to watch an angry Bryce.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun.
So Bryce Harper in a shortened season last year, 293, 401, 900 OPS. He hit 21 home runs, 84 runs scored, 72 RBI, and stole 12 bases. I just think it's going to be a very different Bryce Harper this year. I've got 310. I've got 425 OBP. I've got a 525 OPS. So we're looking at about 525 slugging for about a 950 OPS. 45 home runs. I just think this dude is going to explode this year. 100 runs, 110 RBI, 12 to 15 stolen bases is probably about right.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, man. Not only are you going to get angry Bryce, but you're going to get a Bryce who's settled into a now and a position that's not going to tax him. Like the best possible thing is for him to play 162 games at first base and DH.
Yeah.
Because it's just not going to tax his body. And an arrested Bryce Harper body is like terrifying. It's terrifying. Like this dude is we are about to watch prime Bryce Harper. We have like 3 years of Bryce Harper. And what we've gotten, what we got in 22 was unbelievable.
Yeah.
What we got last year when he came back and finally settled was out of this world. Every time that guy came up big spot, he got a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
And look, man, like we say it all the time. We have these like elite players in our city that we want to win titles. And I don't know that there's a player that I want to win a title here more than Bryce Harper.
Yeah, no,
Like,
he's at the top.
Like he is like, I just can't believe he's a Philly. And every time I watch him play, I'm just so grateful I get to watch him. And I think that this year we're going to see all of it come to fruition. Like we saw it in 22. Like it wasn't great at all times in 22. It was awesome, but it wasn't like what I think we're about to watch. And last year, he was hurt, then he came back, and it wasn't like full Bryce.
Yeah, he didn't trust it for a while. Yep.
Yeah. And then once he started to, it was like, oh shit, this guy.
You were seeing rosin come off the ball.
It was unbelievable.
I've never seen that before.
And it was like, oh, you're coming up in down to, there's 2 guys on base. He's absolutely hitting it.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where every time he came up in a spot, he just hit a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was that every time.
Yeah.
And even when the postseason came around, that in Arizona in Game 5, like that really important 5, when they were up a run, what does Bryce do? After Schwarber puts a ball 12 rows deep, Bryce comes up and hits one 20 rows deep. I don't know, man. I feel like is gonna be the Bryce year.
Yeah.
It is going to be the Bryce year.
Yeah. No, I'm completely with you. I can't wait to watch it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. This is, again, I'm going to do some more things in the next week or so, but I think my Harper Schwarber stuff is pretty bold in terms of like batting average for Schwarber. I hate that I'm making it bold because people seem to think it's so important. And with Harper, it's just like, I think this is the Harper.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the Harper. it feels like all the things are kind of falling into place. The position, the comfort with his body, just prime Bryce Harper. There's not a pitcher in the world that I feel like
Yeah, and the fact that, like, look, I'm sure he, as all great players do, he feels like missing half a year didn't put his team in the best position.
Yeah.
Like, he's just coming in. Look, because Bryce wasn't immune to what happened to the team in those last couple games. He wasn't.
No, he's trying to do too much.
Yep. And like, that wasn't the case in 22. He was putting the ball anywhere he wanted to.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the case. So I just think a guy like that, they just feed off that. They know when they aren't themselves, and that like frustrates them to no end because they know what their abilities are.
You're spot on with the last few games of the postseason. Like I think specifically to Game 7, and he just missed 2 balls.
Oh yeah.
Like if he's swinging normal Bryce Harper, those balls are, in the gap. And
right, they're in left center.
Yeah, and one of them's probably in the left center field gap, and probably over.
Yeah,
and he knew that. He said that afterward. Like he just took bigger swings than he had to.
Yep.
And I think it was just
they were all pressing at the same time.
Every single one of them, and it it wasn't that way in 22, and I just think this year it's going to be. All right, so look, we know how important the guys we just talked about are to the Phillies, but I'd argue in terms of importance and value, and maybe not just to the Phillies, but Philly sports all around, that there's one guy who doesn't get talked about enough, and that's Zack Wheeler. I've said it on this show. I've said it to you, private text messages, on the golf course, everywhere, right? I've said it to other people. I don't know that there's ever been a contract in terms of baseball contracts, in terms of pitchers, as team friendly in regarding like results based as what Zack Wheeler's contract has been.
Yeah.
5 years, $118 million is what they gave him up front. He's pitched. I mean, Regz, he's the best pitcher in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer Strider's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But if you include postseason, Wheeler's been another level. Like, he's just been a totally different guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put him right up there in terms of the National League. I put baseball. One of the best right-handed pitchers, one of the best all around, like just absolutely dominant across the board.
Yeah.
And one of Dave Dombrowski's goals this offseason has been to extend Zack Wheeler. And, there was some concern early. It wasn't happening. The test free agency and all that to rest right now. They wanted to wait till now so it doesn't count against the tax for this year,
right,
which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So, he interviewed yesterday, and I mean, he made it very clear. They love the city. His wife, Zach, like, they love playing for the organization. Zach knows the grass is not always greener, right? Like, he played in a place where he came from, New York, that, he has said it wasn't this way. It's not this way in every clubhouse. He knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that gave me pause, I think he believes all of that, but he was talking a whole lot about market value. So he knows what he's worth. His agent knows what he's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the Phillies know what he's worth. According to Matt Gelb, Wheeler and his agents, because Wheeler says the first number that they gave the Phillies is $43 million a year.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start here. He's going into his age 30 season, I believe.
Yeah. 34.
I think he's 34 right now. I think he turns 30. Double check me.
I am.
What I'm asking you though is either way, are you willing to pay him $40 million a year for what I think will be 4 more years? Minimum.
He turns 34 this year.
Okay. All right. I apologize. Okay. So say you do 4 years. You're paying him his age 34, 35, 36, 37 seasons, right? 4 years, 180 million. That's like 45 a year. Are you willing to do that? Or would you do 5 for 200 and have him go through his 38 and then you're at 40 million? Nice round number.
I am firmly in the 3 for 3 at like 105 to 115 ish. So like from 35 to 37 mil a year over 3 years.
Okay. That would be a happy zone. What if they say no? 4. It's 4 or we go to free agency.
If it's 4 at 35 to 37, fine. Fine.
Okay. I gotta be honest, man. I'm doing it at 4 for
4 at
40
45, like no thanks.
I'm doing it for 40 per. Easily. I'm not quibbling with one of the best pitchers in baseball a year. I think, Regz, there's a part of this that's like you got to give the guy the money for what he's done too, right?
Sure.
Like, and some of these pitchers have Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander. They're very similar to Zach Wheeler, and they've pitched just fine into their 40s. You know, there's a little bit of fall off with Scherzer. He's not totally the same, but I think he's in his 40s now.
I believe so. Yeah.
I mean, Wheeler's still, 34 years old, and look, it's not going to be perfect at the end, but at that point, he's probably your third, fourth starter. And look, that number is not nearly as bad as what it is now because anybody else on the market is going to get that number. Like, I don't know, man. I'm super concerned that if they don't get something done, Zach Wheeler's not going to be a Philly after this year. I'm really worried that say the Dodgers don't win this year. We need another arm. You think they're going to blink at throwing 200 at Zach Wheeler? No. That's not going to bother them. You think the pitching starved Yankees are going to blink at throwing money at Zach Wheeler? They wanted him in a trade before he signed in Philly, like last year of his contract with the Mets, but the Mets wouldn't do it because they're not going to trade him to the Yankees. Like, there are teams. It wouldn't even shock me with a new ownership group with the Mets if he would go back there and they'd throw money at him because the Mets are taking this year off and they're going to go right back into the pool next year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really worried that if they don't bring Zach Wheeler back before now, he didn't say he's going to cut off contract talks when the year starts. He has not said that. We knew that about Nola, like bar none last year. It was then or next year, which I think ended up biting him in the ass. I think he was very distracted during the season. That doesn't mean Wheeler won't get to that point and say we'll do it.
Yeah.
At the end of the year. I also think what Wheeler wants to get this done.
I agree.
I do. And look, that 43 number, that's like your cliche, this is where we bargain, right? Like, we're going to start here. The Phillies are going to start at 35.
Right.
And if we can get to 38, 39, 40, then everybody's happy and we can all move on.
Yeah.
Wheeler wasn't like he was very clear in saying, like, look, it's not all about money. Like, I'm not here to say that I want X number of dollars, but I want fair market value. And honestly, when you look at what pitchers are getting, fair market value in terms of what he does and what he's done, he's close to that $40 million box. So
listen, if it's anything from 3 at 110 to 120, like, cool. I'll take that.
Yeah. I'd go for 60. There's luxury tax concerns, right?
Right.
I know the Phillies don't want to lose draft picks. Like, I get all that. I do. But if you trust in your development team, if you trust in your drafting process, like, the Dodgers are fine in all of these ways because they trust those things, built those things structurally and systematically. And I think the Phillies are getting better there.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to be able to trust in that stuff. And it's gotten better for them. So they're going to have some cheaper contracts coming. Like, you're going to have hopefully Abel and hopefully Painter, and you're going to have cheaper, like Aiden Miller in 3 years is going to, I hope Justin Crawford and Johan Rojas become a thing for you, right? Like, you're going to have guys to offset these bigger numbers when dudes like Castellanos and Schwarber are gone.
Yeah.
Because their salaries are going to fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have these younger guys coming to offset these bigger numbers. So you might suffer for a year or two when Wheeler's number sets in. And who the hell knows? Maybe you can, like, push some of that down the road a little bit, like another team does. I don't know, man. It just feels like they need to do this for a lot of reasons. I just don't think you can go into next year with unknown Andrew Painter. You don't know if you're going to bring Ranger back.
Yeah.
Aaron Nola and Taiwan Walker. Like, I feel like you have to go into next year knowing that you've got.
I really do think that they'll get it done.
I'll feel a lot better when it happens.
I think his wife's from South Jersey, like near where I
they
grew
love
up.
it.
Like,
they love it here.
I really do think I think I believe him when I say, or when he says, like, he likes it here and his family loves it here.
Yeah.
And, like, look, but it's of his, as we say with all athletes, it's of their purview to try and make as much money as possible because it could all be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
So look, it's like you said, you started a number, which is obviously influenced by your agent.
Yeah.
Like, and then you figure it out from there. I also don't think Zach Wheeler is going to quibble over, like, 37.5 or 39. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think
it's fair.
I don't think that's going to be him either.
No, you're right. You're right.
So then, in the same way, the Phillies, like, don't necessarily need to squibble over $1 million. You know, they make that in 3 nights of parking that we have to pay to go to these games. But I also don't think Zach is going to let something fall through because of that either.
Yeah. Yeah. I am, I'm very interested in, you know, where it all lands, just because I do think Wheeler, I don't think Wheeler is the type to be distracted. It's just not in his nature. I do think he wants to have it taken care of. I think the Phillies want to have it taken care of. I think everybody would feel better going into the. It's done.
Yeah.
He's going to be a Philly for the next.
Someone made a good
years.
point also that, like, he's already been in free agency.
Right. And I don't think he wants to go. I don't think he has, like, the drive.
Right.
Place he wants to be.
Right.
Right. So, you know, he went through the process. He felt what it was like. And now I think this is a home. If he didn't really have success, yeah, you go and do it again.
Right.
But he's found success. He's found a home. He enjoys the team, the organization. I just think it's going to come down to, can they find the number that the Phillies have never really gone $3 million for a pitcher.
Yeah.
So this would be a huge jump for them. Huge. I mean, double his salary essentially. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful and feel good about the possibility of this getting done. I want it to. I need to know he's going to be back.
Yeah.
And that's me looking ahead a full season. I don't like doing that. It's just I don't know what this rotation could even look like without Zach Wheeler next year. It just I can't see it. So we'll see. But we've got to, like we said, and it's creeping. So I think let's do some storylines and some things to watch as we hit spring. And I'm going to start with a really obvious. Johan Rojas. They've not promised Johan Rojas anything, but they also haven't done anything to say, well, we've got someone ready. There's no competition, I guess is where I'm leaning. The job is basically his, unless he's so bad that you can't even make the argument he should play.
Yeah.
At which point it's probably Christian Pache until they figure out, something else, or until guys squirm free at the end of spring training due to roster constrictions and things like that. So I think, for me, Regs, and spring training's a weird sort of time. I think we're going to see him hitting at the top of the order a lot to get more bats in spring. He's going to be hitting lead off, second, in split squads, things like that, so that they can see him, get more chances against some of the better pitchers on other teams. And I don't know. I don't necessarily need him to hit
well, yeah,
right.
Right.
I don't need one of those huge breakouts.
No, this is much more like an eye test thing.
I just need to see him be competent in his approach.
We need a shorter swing. We need some better pitch recognition. And maybe just an ability to maybe drive the ball a little bit.
Yeah, I'd also like to see the speed.
Yeah, sure. I don't think that's going anywhere.
No, I just want to see it being maybe we bunt,
right.
and see what that looks like.
Yeah.
So he's a big storyline. Again, when opening day rolls around, I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
If he's not playing center field.
But yeah.
I think he's someone to keep our eye on in terms of what are we going to get? We know we're getting with the glove, but is there a difference in his swing? Is he more comfortable? Are we noticing something that are helping him in his approach? And then we go from there. But I think he's a good storyline to sort of start with.
Yep.
Do you want to say? Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to give one of mine, but we can go to whatever you want to do.
Go.
Mine is Sir Anthony.
Oh.
Because Sir wasn't 2022 Sir last year.
No.
And my concern is that if he doesn't get back to closer to 2022, then we have a lot riding on Jeff Hoffman and Orion Kirkring. Hoffman was undisputably fantastic. Can he do it again? I have no effing idea. I don't. I want more than anything for him to continue to be good. But I have no idea. I saw him pitch for 3 months. He was very good, but I've only seen him pitch for that long.
Yeah.
Orion Kirkring, again, just a kid who was playing A-ball. I get that he'll have a full spring training with Caleb Cotham and all those things that go with that. I don't know if he's going to be able to locate his fastball well enough to make that slider more effective. And we clearly saw him get rattled when that slider he can't throw it for strikes.
Yeah.
So can he utilize it? He's chucking it 100, his fastball. Can he utilize it to set up the slider? I need Sir. I don't need 2020. Like, I don't need that. Like, listen, we don't have to set unreasonable expectations. I just need him not what he was this past year. Like, I need him closer to 2022. I need his control. He's got filthy stuff. Can he just dial in his mechanics and just have it right all the time and be consistent? Because if teams know you could bring in any number of Sir, Kerkering, and Hoffman, then you're in a good spot. But when they know you just got to rely on this dude who basically cleared waivers and like Bryce Harper convinced the team to bring him back because he liked how he pitched against him in his rehab, and a kid, right? A child who just came up from single A, like, it's a huge difference to a guy you could throw in against the Astros or the Braves or any other team in 22, and you knew he was going to be competitive.
Right.
So I just like that bullpen is great. There's nasty stuff from top to bottom. We need Sir Anthony to be closer to like Sir Anthony.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair guy to watch. And one that I think we're all equally concerned about going into the year after what we saw. But bullpen stuff is always very unpredictable.
Yeah.
So, but while we're there, let me do another. Again, I always love these fringe. I love the fringe stuff going into spring training because I think they're, when that's the thing you're most concerned about, it's a good thing.
Yes.
And that last pen spot has me very intrigued this year. Some names to keep an eye on. Michael Mercado, a dude they traded for from the Rays, who had like a 35% strikeout rate. Fun name. Could be this year's Jeff Hoffman. I don't know. Nick Nelson, back there with an option. Junior Marte, back there with an option. Dylan Covey, no option. Probably the guy that makes it. There'll be other guys that they're going to push in and out, up and down, back and forth. Michael Rucker, picked him up from the Cubs. An interesting name. They see something in him, see if they can turn him into this year. And then a name that I think like we talk about a lot on this show and is Connor Brogdon. Like was so good for 2 years.
Yeah.
And last year just like totally lost it. But I don't think he has an option left. So that last bullpen, I like we know Alvarado, Soto, Dominguez, Hoffman, Kerkering, like those guys we know, Schramm.
Yeah.
Like those 6 guys we know, Covey's probably getting a spot. So who's 8? Like who's 8? Right now, it's one of those guys. And they're going to be interchangeable. In and out. And we'll see. But those are the names. Those are I believe those are the 6.
Yeah.
Well, Covey, like I said, he's probably getting
Yeah,
a
I
spot.
think so too.
But those other 5. Mercado. No, well, Bilatti's back now. So you can probably throw him in there. Mercado, Bilatti, Nelson, Marte, Rucker, Brogdon. And I do think.
What about that Ortiz guy?
Yeah, he's another one with an option. I think he's going to start.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, he was decent when he came up.
Yeah, they'll use him rotationally. Like, we're going to give this guy a blow. Up he comes for, a week. They're going to do that with him, Marte, Brogdon. Like, these guys are going to be on a. Brogdon doesn't have an option. So it's if he comes up, he's up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my pen thing. Like, who's going to be that? How they going to use that A spot? They brought over a bunch of dudes with options for 3 others that I'm going to kind of talk about in another conversation. But anything you want to add before I go to the next one?
No.
Okay. The other pitchers that I'm intrigued by. We talked a little bit about Kobe Allard. I'm going to go super deep there. This Spencer Turnbull signing, I'm very intrigued. Look, he hasn't been good. And he's been hurt. But like, this is like a former top pick. Like, it's the same thing as Kobe Allard. They're going on pedigree. And they're hoping to find something that can help them. You know, if one of these two can be like 70% of what they were originally supposed to be, that's a win. That's a win. They trust Caleb Cotham a lot, Regz, to get the best out of these guys. And Turnbull has a bunch of major league incentives that, like, his salary can go to like $2.5 million. That's a heavy incentive. Like, they see something. They really had to throw the kitchen sink at him to get him to take a lesser role with incentives. So there's something they see there. And that always, when that happens, good things sort of grow from that. And again, he's sort of that Jeff Hoffman prototype. Was a starter, had struggles. Maybe they see him as a potential arm in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And they're trying to, squeeze that juice. One other signing, a minor league invitation that I feel like we have to mention. David Buchanan, welcome home. I mean, look, as far as like rebuild Phillies go, David Buchanan was super likable, was like a fun story for a little bit. Again, like never expected him to be anything special, but he went to Japan and then pitched in KBO and was one of the best pitchers over there. He's pitches the contact, soft contact, has a hammer curve. Who knows? You might need him to start a few games. He's got professional ball experience.
Right.
If he has to start 4 or 5 games for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. It wasn't like he wasn't pitching.
Right.
He was pitching in one of the most competitive baseball leagues in the world. And was one of the better pitchers in that league. He had like a 3 ERA over there.
Yeah.
He was pitching basically where Shohei was. And pitching really well. So it's a fun little signing. I told you, I'm really excited. And those 3 are 3 that I'm pretty stoked about. That Michael Mercado's.
Yeah.
Anything there?
No.
All right. Just wanted to check on you. 2 more, and then we're gonna wrap. The bench. Again, like, it's good that these are the things we have to watch for.
Yeah.
Like, we're not watching for who's our starting shorts.
Right.
Here's what I know about the bench. Garrett Stubbs and Edmundo Sosa. I don't know anything after that. Like, Christian Pache is a possibility.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's guaranteed anything. Maybe.
Yeah.
But like, we know they have Jay Cave still, and they need a lefty. They need a left-handed bat. And preferably they want someone who can play multiple positions. It can't be Derek Hall.
Right.
So Cave makes sense. Weston Wilson could end up with that role.
Yeah.
And be a utility guy. Can play a little infield, can play a little outfield. I really liked Wilson when he was up here.
Yeah.
He was a little cup of tea. I thought he was great. I thought he was good defensively. I thought he worked really good at bats. He's going to compete. And look, the Phillies did everything they could to save the option on Rodolfo Castro.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to start in AAA, but he'll be up.
God,
he'll be up.
Terrible.
So look, if you were making me guess today in this moment, Stubbs, Sosa, Pache, Cave.
Yeah.
I hate it. Like, it's not good.
No.
But that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
which kind of leads me to this. Does Dave Dombrowski sign someone in spring training? We've been hearing it from every angle.
Yeah.
They've done nothing. It's marginal. It's options. They're not better. I'm not counting him out yet. With all these names still on the board, there's a chance that one of these guys falls into his lap. And I'm not saying Cody Bellinger. I don't think that's what we're looking at here. But Jordan Montgomery could very well be a Philly, which changes the whole conversation about the bullpen, because I think at that point, Christopher Sanchez moves to the bullpen.
Yep.
And there's your eighth guy. Whit Merrifield, if you want to upgrade your bench, that takes Christian Pache out of the equation. And now I like the bench a whole lot better with Whit Merrifield. I still think they have to upgrade the left-handed bat, but you can do that at the deadline. You can do that. That's fine. You can probably get by with Jake Cave as your fifth outfielder, for 3 months. And just let Whit Merrifield be your fourth outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
But that would, I heard he's going to make a decision by the weekend.
Yeah.
So unless he has someone saying you're going to start here, the Phillies have to be at least somewhat attractive to him.
You would think so.
So I think there's probably a move or two left for Dave. I think the floor is a bench bat.
Yeah.
The ceiling is Jordan Montgomery. I don't think it's Snell. I think it's Montgomery. They've been tied to him left and right for like a solid 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
By multiple people, including Jim Salisbury. So, and how I feel about Jim.
Oh, of course.
So I think that there's a real potential that Jordan can be and then I think the offseason was pretty darn good. And onward and upward we go.
Listen, I don't like for the Merrifield thing. It's like, as much as I want Rojas to be better and all that, like he could come and just take that job. And
Absolutely
Rojas is on your bench.
No, Rojas goes to AAA and develops.
Yeah. And Merrifield is not Rojas defensively.
Right.
But his bat is.
It's better. For sure. He's not the same as he was.
No, but he's got major league experience and.
Yeah. I think the thing about what you could pose to Whit Merrifield is, look, you're going to play 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Like you're still going to play a lot. Like you're going to play second base. You're going to play third base. You're going to play all three outfield positions. Like we're going to play multiple times a week. You're going to be in the lineup. I don't know that if they're bringing him in, they're bringing him in to push Rojas a little bit, but I still think they're bringing him in to be a guy who can a lot of positions, play 3-4 times a week, spell guys.
Yeah, totally.
And when he's not playing, be like late in the game. If Johan's not hitting, you bring him in and he hits for Johan.
Yeah.
And then Pache becomes Cave's your fifth outfielder, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll see. I do think there's potential there though, because again, Salisbury said a bench bat that can play multiple positions. Not many of them out there. Whit seems to be the guy who fits that description the best.
Yep.
And I love me some Whit.
You do.
All right, buddy, that was fun.
It was great. I love talking baseball.
And from this point on, we will be talking baseball every single.
I'm so happy.
From now until November, when the Phillies win the World Series.
Damn straight.
But if you don't mind, I'd like to just quickly fixate. Thank you. Once again, congratulations to the Kansas Chiefs for their second consecutive Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the supposed to be celebration was ruined yet again by this godforsaken epidemic we have in this country that, like, guns aren't a problem. Like, they're just not an issue. Yet, like, you know, it started where you couldn't go to school, and it went to the movies and to your place of worship and the grocery store and like the park. And now you can't go see your favorite team to celebrate winning the Super Bowl. You know, in 2018, I went, and like, it was one of the best experiences of my life. And last year, when the Eagles were in it, Andrea said, "Will you go to the parade should they win?" And I was like, "No, I don't think it's safe anymore to go." And yesterday proved that. 21 people were shot, 2 are dead. 12 are, you know, sustained injuries, and 9 were in serious condition. I want to turn this and spin this a little bit into an idea proactively. There was a lot that was coming out about the way the Chiefs players handled. A lot of them, like, came to the side of kids who couldn't find their parents. There was a lot of, like, reports of players, big name players, that were hugging kids, holding their hands to find law enforcement. Andy Reid was helping. Like, a lot of good from the NFL side came out of this. And let's be honest, Regs. Like, the NFL doesn't always have the best player perception. And I don't want to politicize this. Like, it's politicized enough. But if I'm Roger Goodell, I'm leveraging the crap out of this from a league standpoint. Like, Jeffrey Lurie has spoken out against guns. Jalen Hurts has spoken out against guns. I don't think there's anything wrong with the league standing up and saying, "Stop shooting kids." Like, you know, the league's already been reprimanded by the right for kneeling during the anthem and whatnot, right? Like, we're a few years past that, and it still comes up. Right, wrong, and different. But, like, if I'm Roger Goodell, after what happened at my Super Bowl champion parade, this is the time that, like, as a league, I'm making this my cornerstone. I'm making this the thing that we speak out against. Like, yeah, they've done the domestic violence, stand for awareness for breast cancer, right? Like, they do these things, but they have players now that have stood at the forefront of an active shooter. And I think they can take it forward and make this their ground. Stop shooting kids. I feel like that's something people can get behind. No matter what your belief is, no matter guns, no guns, stop shooting kids is something we can all. Stop shooting at people who are there trying to enjoy something and celebrate something. Like, what hate do you have for the freaking Kansas City Chiefs fan? It's just, like, it's so senseless at this point. And the NFL is a very powerful league. It's a super powerful league. Can we do something? Like, can we do something? Like, use your platform, NFL, because, like, we gotta do something. Like, we've gotta do something. That's where I'm at, man.
Yeah, I'm not I don't disagree.
It's just like you can't go anywhere anymore. And gotta figure it out. And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for Bell to do something, say something. So we'll see. Maybe they will.
Yeah.
And maybe they won't, and we'll just move along.
Yeah. Regardless, a ridiculous thing to
terrible thing
have to talk about at a Super Bowl parade.
And I hate like that I just almost said thoughts and prayers to those families because it's one of my least favorite things that people say. I just want action. Of course, thoughts and prayers to them, and I mean that everything I have. But ultimately, I think what those people want at this point is action to be taken. You know, I just like think about those two who died. They left so excited for their day and their experience, said goodbye to their loved ones, whoever that may have been, and that was it. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like totally, I can't believe we have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. Well, hey, on the bright side of things, and it sounds so bad. Baseball's back. And that brings me great joy. But it doesn't take away from the sadness that we have to endure in what is today's world. So, but it can bring light to a dark day. And we hope that this show brought you some of that joy. I debated ending this way, but thought it was important and appreciate Regz for letting me. But we will be back next Thursday night. We'll see if there's anything Eagles to cover. We'll do something Eagles. The all season coming around. You have to. We'll definitely touch on, the Sixers coming out of the All-Star. And of course, we will have some Phillies stuff coming your way.
Thank God.
Until then, have a great week. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. More now than ever. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow us on all the social media. You know how to get us. If you don't, go listen to another episode. Click the merchandise link. We'll talk to you soon. Welcome back, Phils.
Trey Turner, be who I want you to be.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.